Welcome back, and thank you for joining me on Mr. Jim's Adventures. Last time, Sebastian uncovered the truth about the mysterious Verili's Academy. What began as a promising opportunity quickly turned into a dangerous trap, and Sebastian learned that some people are willing to go to great lengths to keep their secrets hidden. Today, we return to the Jefferson Davis. Old problems are growing worse. New players are making their move, and events are beginning to spiral beyond anyone's control. This is Chapter 6 of The Problem with Aether. Jagger. Jagger waits for his mom to make the first comment. Sebo's news that the officers who shut down the school suggested he join IS and that he is considering it should be shocking. He's still too young to make that decision without a parent's consent. Let mom shut down that idea. Sebo, I don't want you coming back until you're done with training. Mom, I got taller over the last semester, not uglier. I thought you loved me. His smile fades when his mom continues in a serious tone. I do, son. That's why I don't want you coming back here any time soon. The gangs are tightening the screws. They are making everyone choose sides. There have already been deaths. Some people don't want to choose, others choose the wrong gang and paid a terrible price. I don't even think they realize what their jockeying for power is doing to the ship. With the resources they are throwing around, they can't afford to back down. Each gang needs to be on the side that wins. Eventually, the fighting will become open warfare. Sebastian turns to his brother. Is that how you see it? Yeah, alliances are being made and broken as everyone tries to find a place they can stand. The only thing for sure is that Castillo, Sanger, and Mungo are the best prepared, and the final slugfest will be between them. Though I'm sure they will use the smaller gangs as cannon fodder before risking those truly loyal to them. Mungo? That's a new one. I think his real name is Eugene. He is somehow related to the ship's captain. As a kid, he was sickly. He would have died, but the captain pulled some strings and he was taken off the ship. He came back just a few months ago. That's the weird part. Nobody remembers him being anything special before he left. He thinks that the name Mungo shows his multiracial heritage. His mother is blacker than either of us, and his father is of Oriental descent, which would fit since Captain Ving comes from China. In a couple of months, he's become a contender for power among the passengers? Yeah. When he arrived, he didn't take long to figure out who he could bully and who he had to bribe. He's big and they say pretty smart and tough to beat. It's weird. He doesn't fight like anybody from the JD. Okay, so when I come back, I'll stay low until the dust settles. We've had to do that before. It won't work that easy this time. Callisto has the crew on his side. He is in charge of distributing the dole. If Mom or I try to get enough food to feed you, he will know you're back. Word will get around quickly, even if Mom and I don't talk, that you are getting training with internal security. They're going to want that knowledge and skill on their side. Jagger rinses the last glass and sets it in the drainer. If you don't join one of the gangs and are caught on board when the fighting starts, you will be considered a threat. All three sides will try to tempt you, threaten you, and in the end kill you. Mom's right. When you leave, you shouldn't come back until you hear from us. I'll keep that in mind when I come to visit. Sebastian. No, Mom, I can't let a bunch of bullies tell me when I can and can't come home, especially when there's a simple solution for this whole mess. Both pale at the thought. You can't do that. Why not? Why hasn't somebody already done it? Outside the wax-coated sheet used for a window, Timmer has heard enough. Careful not to make any sound, he moves away from his listening post and heads off to find his powerful friends. Sabo, you know what would happen. You know every passenger would shame you and us for not teaching you better. Life for you and us would be horrible. We would be ostracized. No one would talk to us or help us. We would lose our home and would not find shelter. Even friends would stay away for fear of this happening to them too. You know what they did to your father for just talking to the elders about it. Fine, I won't be the one to let the cat out of the bag, but I think it wouldn't be so bad. The better living conditions resulting from being able to get outside would help counterbalance the malice and shame that the old earthers caused. It is a subdued house that evening, and everyone turns in early. Sebastian finds it hard to sleep. Just as he gets comfortable, a new aspect of the situation comes to mind, like the three-way fight. If one of the three were to go away, the other two could hash things out. Mungo would be the obvious choice. Turn the other two against him. When the dust settles, there will be only two remaining, two who now have a history of working together, two who can come to an agreement on the division of power. But that would still leave the ship at the mercy of the gangs. Maybe cutting down the numbers is the wrong answer. Boost as many of the little fish into big fish. Then everyone would be too busy looking over their shoulder to get a bigger piece of the pie. If one gang attacks another, it would leave them open to attacks by the 3 or 4 other gangs. That's how it used to be. Of course, that's a temp solution. Eventually, one or two will gain a bit of power, or gangs will make alliances, and we would be right back where we are. Unless someone with the know-how and outside support could play the groups against each other. It would take someone skilled in at least one of the heretical arts, and it would have to be someone local. An outsider would be watched closely and wouldn't have the inside connections. That's basically what Mungo did. He was originally from here. When he came back, he had supplies that could not be gained on board. Judicious distribution of those supplies gave him a strong base to make his bid for power. The next morning, Jagger and Sebastian take leave of their mom. There are a few other people Sebastian wants to see before returning to the Indy. The air is particularly foul today. Jagger, is that smoke I'm smelling? Don't worry about it. Sometimes when the ship runs to incinerators, there's a bit of leakage. A fix-it man will hunt down the leak and seal it. A fix-it man? Really, Jagger? I hadn't heard that term since third grade, when we were taught they were actually called mechanics. Don't knock it, man. The term has worked its way into the standard ship lingo. If I don't use it, someone might think I'm from off ship. I don't want to be that kind of target. Both young men stop. The smell of smoke intensifies and is now accompanied by a wisp of the stuff flowing down the tunnel. That's no incinerator leak. Something is burning. Sebastian looks at Jagger, who nods his agreement. Fire is an ancient enemy. Man has managed to tame small flames in controlled environments, but a fire let loose and out of control is still one of our greatest fears. In a confined space where people in the fire have nowhere else to go, its dangers grows exponentially. Though they are just a few feet away from the hatch that takes them out of the passenger area and into the safety of the crew territory, they turn down the main passageway, following the scent. Taking opposite sides of the main way, the brothers carefully move toward the smoke, looking down side passages for the source. It doesn't take long. The crush of panicked people piling out of a hatch tells them which way to head. Blaster shots clear the hatchway, and two men step forward to close and lock it from the inside. Blasters? Where the heck did they get blasters? I don't know, but it was probably from the crew. They wore Mungo's colors. Are they crazy? That's the jungle. They just sealed a bunch of people in an inferno. The jungle was originally a large compartment taking up the majority of the space along the ship's axis of spin. The intention was to give the inhabitants a place to gather for entertainment, public debates, gardens, whatever they wanted. Because it was along the axis, all surfaces were down. You could walk all the way around. In practice, it became a market area, a place where the homeless could sleep, and a crossroads for drugs and human trafficking. It was a warren of businesses, homes, and the base of operations for many of the gangs. Roughly 40,000 people lived and worked in this rat's nest maze. Jagger, are you listening to me? Sorry, I guess not. All those people are going to die. No, they're not. Look, few of the gangbangers are fanatical enough to lock themselves into a place to die. Also, too many of those blasts went wide. They wanted live prisoners. So what are they planning? I don't know, but I know how we can find out. Follow me. Sebastian leads his brother down a side passage. He opens a side panel near the bridge. In the panel, there are a lot of wires, buttons, and a small diagnostic screen. After entering a string of access codes, the display spits back a cascade of error messages. Something's wrong. All the circuitry checks out. Either the cameras are turned off or destroyed. Neither should be possible without crew authorization. Jagger suggests maybe we can get around behind them through the maintenance passages. No, all those feed into the jungle. Wait, the air ducts. I didn't think of it earlier, but this made me realize I have been studying ships to figure out how to get around unnoticed for a long time. When I was still in grade school, I wanted to move about without interference from some gang enforcer. Sorry, Jagger, but guys with your job title don't tend to be pleasant people. Well, one of the ways around I discovered was the air vents. There isn't anything large enough near habitable areas to be useful, but the jungle was supposed to hold a bunch of people and needed a lot of air. We can use the ducts to move around and the vents to spy out the situation. Sebastian approaches an access panel and punches one of the codes he has learned while spying out the Sable Hawk. See, the codes are universal so emergency crews can get access. They step into the passage and pull the panel shut behind them. This passage runs all around the jungle. There are 3 more like it. Periodically, there are spires that rise up towards the center of the space. Fresh air is dumped up there, and the pseudo-gravity from spin pulls it down. From the top of one of the vents, we should be able to see what is going on. Sebastian leads the way. Reaching the ladder, he opens the overhead access and starts to climb. There's only going to be room for one of us to take a look. You should stay down and watch for anyone else using the conduits. Sebastian's previous successes makes him careless. Who would ever think of using these old tunnels? This lack of fear and caution makes him overlook the glyph in the darkness. From the top, the view is horrible. Whatever they used must have burned hot and quick. Any structure not made of steel was burned away or melted. Bones stick jaggedly through smoking remains. For the first time in his life, Sebastian can see the far bulkhead and appreciate the spin of the ship as people appear to be gathering on the other side, walking on the ceiling. Then he takes a closer look. Whoever is doing this is herding hostages over where the snow cone shack used to be. If we make our way over to the vent there, we should be able to get a better idea of what's going on. His only response is the sounds of a fight and a lot of banging around down below. Sebastian starts to climb down when the vent spire shudders. He holds tight to prevent falling and watches a huge blade slice through the spire about a foot below him. If he had moved any faster, the blade would have been cutting into him. There's a brief moment of vertigo as the spire tumbles, and then Sebastian loses consciousness. Cash. Captain Cash of the transport vessel Indy. Cash slowly opens his eyes. The main thought in his head is that the intercom is not his alarm, so he's being awakened before he was ready. He yawns as he adjusts his bed, folding it back into the shape of the pilot's seat. The multi-purpose furniture is one of the features that make living aboard the vessel possible. A new voice comes online. Captain Cash of the transport vessel Indy. This is Captain Ving of the passenger vessel Jefferson Davis, to which you are currently docked. The speaker goes quiet but for a bit of static. Swiftly, Cash answers. Captain Ving, sorry to keep you waiting. To what do I owe this pleasure? We haven't spoken since you first welcomed me to the route. Unfortunately, sir, this is not a pleasure call. Other voices in the background speak urgently, but Cash can't make out what they're saying. We have an emergency situation here, and some very dangerous people trying to take the ship. Take the ship? It is nothing we can't handle. But for your safety, we are disconnecting your vessel. Once the emergency is over, you will be allowed to dock again. You can't do that. Cash checks the time. I have a passenger due in about half an hour, and cargo to get offloaded. Cash hands fly across the controls, inputting commands and readying the ship for what he must do. I'm sorry, Captain, but I have my own ship to worry about and cannot take responsibility for yours if these renegades try to take your ship. If you do not disconnect in 60 seconds, we will run the overrides and force the disconnect. Captain Vang out. You gave me too much time for your own good. Captain Cash thinks as he engages the extra commands at his disposal. One of the incentives for taking this route is the ship itself. Its design includes functionality that few non-military vessels have access to, and since IS likes its secrets, most Marines and even IS officers have no clue about, even when their ship is equipped with the Insight-enhanced gear. At his command, the Indy docks back to the JD, the glyphs on the Indy easily overriding the larger vessel's systems, while simultaneously sending false signals to the bridge so no one knows the system is compromised and do not detect the hatch opening. While Cash does not have the gift of insight, and therefore cannot see the power of the glyphs and directly work the magic, the ship and the suit he wears has taken that into mind. The heretical sciences are popular and useful because it takes into account those who are limited. Toggles and buttons are designed into the suit to let the wearer make physical changes which in turn activate or deactivate the magic. Features like the hermetic seal are always on, giving the wearer a constant flow of breathable air while maintaining body temperature. As the hatch cycles open, Cash presses a button to activate his stealth mode. It doesn't make him invisible, but it does dampen any sound he might make and makes anyone glancing his way look elsewhere. Eyes slide past him without any but the strongest of will ever realizing something is amiss. Drawing the blaster, Cash boards the Jefferson Davis. The crew's too busy setting up defense positions to notice the visitor, even without the stealth suit. Cash locates a communication panel and uses IS override codes to scan for the captain's signal. He listens for a minute, then turns down the passage headed inward towards the center of the ship. It's not like the kid is a magnet for trouble. He is what the hermetical scientists refer to as a pendulum. He is self-leveling. It is in his nature to take action to cause things to settle back into a stable state. There might be a few wild swings until everything settles. Cash's IS contacts, his old platoon, think the kid's career choice is a reaction to the school ending. Then he overswings center and goes home before heading to orientation. If something unorthodox happened here, Sebastian Snow is going to gravitate towards an anomaly. In order to prevent his schedule from getting completely whacked, Cash heads to the center of the disturbance. Cash uses his suit to pull up a map of the ship. Since it is an illusion spell, there are no true limits to how large he can make it or how much he can zoom in. Captain Bang's crew are prepping to enter the jungle near the poles. His first officer and a few men will meet to discuss terms and see what they can do to get the ship back to a semblance of normal. Meanwhile, with Callisto's aid, Captain Ving and his security team are sneaking in through a cargo hatch. Between both groups is a mob. Scared and otherwise emotionally ramped up bangers stand guard over Mungo's prisoners. For the most part, they are huddled together with the bangers patrolling around them. But there are a few groups separated, choice prisoners that Mungo wants to deal with personally. Cash uses the glyph on the side of his goggles to increase magnification. After viewing the third small camp, he finds the people he's looking for. He also sees the captain and Callisto's crews getting closer. No matter what lies he's told the captain, Callisto isn't going to hold nothing back. What's a few more lives after the destruction has been done? Callisto cannot keep any sort of power if he gets this close and anyone who sided with Mungo walks away. Cash, what the heck are you doing? This is the type of disaster that will allow IS to come in and straighten everything out. This is not your fight. Get back to your ship and report what you know. You shouldn't get involved, Cash thinks to himself. Ah, what the heck. It's not like he really is undercover, just retired and keeping a low profile. Not that anyone on the JD would recognize him, but if word got out that someone on the ship had the toys and skills he was going to have to use, there are some very unsavory characters that could put two and two together. But the type of person who serves for 20 years isn't the type of person who could stand by and let innocent people die. It's showtime. Thank you for joining me for Chapter 6 of The Problem with Aether. Next time, the crisis aboard the Jefferson Davis continues to unfold. Lives hang in the balance, old loyalties are tested, and some people are about to discover that the gangs are not the only danger lurking within the ship. Until then, this is Mr. Jim. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you on our next adventure.